joining our session today to learn about the Origin SAP AMS Safe Harbor offering. We really feel that this is a paradigm shift for how companies approach and maintain compliance for supporting their various requirements across Latin America. So thank you for joining today. Let us get started here in the webinar agenda. Today we will be covering the following. I'll be explaining a little bit about the problem statement. We'll cover the challenges of managing government mandates in Latin America, and then we'll try and spend the majority of our time here in the Origin SAP AMS Safe Harbor for Latin America and Brazil offering. We'll talk about the features and the benefits of the Safe Harbor service, and then we'll spend a little time covering the SAP solutions for Latin American compliance. Lastly, we will spend a few minutes on an Origin customer success case study. And at the end, we will have some contact information where you can communicate with us in case you want more information regarding the offering, etc. So let's get started. Okay, Origin. Origin is an American company headquartered in Austin, Texas. We are recognized as one of the more prominent nearshore providers in the U.S. market, servicing global multinationals that run SAP and helping them with their various localization and compliance needs for Latin American operations. Our key offerings are centered around SAP systems integration and consulting expertise, focused around areas such as rollouts, localization projects. We get very specific into specific compliance projects such as e-invoicing, fiscal reporting, and of course SAP AMS support, which is what we're talking about today. We serve our customers via a global delivery model, leveraging several key nearshore solution centers, and those are located in Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. All right, let's talk about the challenge. So, as many of you know, Latin America represents one of the more complex tax and fiscal environments in the world. Let's ask ourselves this question. How can you stay focused on growing your business in these countries when your IT and tax departments are barely able to keep their heads above water, monitoring legal compliance and changes, bracing for the impact that will have on the local operation? Most companies have a global support contract in place that covers Latin America, but because the changes are so dynamic and require legislative interpretation, including basic elements such as language and culture that play a huge part in doing business in the country, still there are challenges. So, for example, in Brazil, legal compliance is more than 10 times as cumbersome to achieve than the US or Europe, and 4 times as complex as India or China. Given this complexity, doesn't it make sense to have a specialized or more comprehensive model in place to handle support for the region? So, a day in the life of managing Latin American operations. Do you ever find yourself asking these questions? How do we keep updated with legal tax changes for LATAM and Brazil? How do we know what updates SAP is issuing in their localization packages for legislation changes, and if they will issue them in time for submission to the deadline? How do we stay aware of what solutions SAP has to address compliance for Latin America? And as I mentioned earlier, even though we have a global support contract in place, we are still experiencing major problems with covering support for the area. How can we find a more predictable service that doesn't create the mini project scenario and helps us manage cost overruns? So we'll cover a little bit about the challenges specifically for collecting and reporting duties and taxes across the supply chain in Latin America. Let's take spiraling IT costs to manage compliance. Many companies use third-party solutions outside of SAP that sound attractive initially, but these solutions are proprietary in nature and costs build over time with additional and unforeseen licensing, maintenance, and integration costs. Let's not forget that third-party solutions that are proprietary in nature also need proprietary services, which over time can put you in a hostage situation. The next item, potential for operational shutdown and delays. In most countries in Latin America, invoice approval is linked to your ability to ship. A truck cannot legally leave the warehouse without a copy of the approved invoice. Your supply chain can be interrupted or temporarily shut down due to non-compliance of the required process and approval. Governments must approve transactions in advance. This is a key one. Commerce in Latin America requires a highly evolved, real-time data stream with the local tax agencies, and a system will need to be able to generate approval keys in a matter of seconds. If something as simple as your connectivity or the government site is down, you cannot ship or receive goods, and you will need to have contingency plans in place. Lastly, strict data formatting and layout requirements. Latin America defines strict process standards which clearly outline things such as XML schema, integration touchpoints, archiving, and printing procedures. Each country has its nuances, and if you operate in different countries in Latin America, this can become very confusing and a massive burden to manage from a regional perspective. Okay. Take some water here. All right. In the next couple of slides, I've given some examples of the types of mandates that need to be adhered to that are country specific. As you can see here in Brazil, the list is substantial. I'll not go into the detail of all of these requirements, but if you operate in any of these countries, I'll have some following slides here for other countries. You should be familiar with some of these requirements. Looking at all these regulations and the related challenges, let's ask ourselves these questions. How do we minimize costs to support the region while complying with regulatory mandates? How do we maximize our sales revenues potential and minimize exposures to fines audits? Well, everyone, the answer is the Safe Harbor solution from Origin. Origin created the Safe Harbor model to offer a new dimension for how companies can manage compliance in the region from a support perspective. The program allows companies to stop firefighting with day-to-day support issues and transfer the full onus of support onto the exports like Origin. It helps you proactively plan in place for how to manage regulatory changes, which provides better visibility to newer mandates and the impact that will have on the local operation. So let's cover some of the key features. This is not a one-size-fits-all program. This is a tailor-made program that we build specifically for each customer. It is bundled into one monthly fee, so basically we look at the support requirements in the countries that are involved, and then we build basically a program that covers the compliance changes that we expect for the organization, covers the day-to-day operational support, and the technical updates that will be needed from an SAP perspective depending on your needs. The Origin Safe Harbor package provides recommendations for the use of certain SAP solutions that are relevant to your organization, and obviously the ongoing legal changes specific to those solutions. One of the key features that we deliver as part of Safe Harbor are monthly compliance updates that are sent by our team with the information on necessary actions that need to be taken from your side, updates in SAP, etc., to meet the applicable legal requirements. And lastly, we engage Origin resources who have 10+ years of functional and technical expertise in all areas of localization to help you manage the impact of the change. So let's talk about the benefit. Obviously, this is a new paradigm shift, as we mentioned earlier. It's a different way of looking how to support the region. One of the biggest challenges that companies face that we speak to all the time are the mini project scenarios that are related to updating mandates, etc. So what challenge does this present for you? You have to look for unplanned budget. You have to constantly go back to management and explain why you need more budget to implement these changes. The benefit here that Origin provides is we eliminate that whole scenario of the mini projects. It's a set fee that's charged on a monthly basis over the full term of the program. The program also helps customers stay on the SAP roadmap. So many customers, et cetera, get themselves in trouble by looking at these third-party solutions. They may not even be aware that SAP has solutions to address compliance for the region. So what we do is we really help customers stay on the roadmap and maintain compliance and sustainability for the region. We provide the timely updates, as also mentioned earlier, that improves planning and really helps your internal resources focus on what they should be doing, which is growing the local business, and let us worry about the day-to-day support needs, to help the organization run effectively from a tax and compliance perspective. And lastly, one of the best benefits is a predictable OPEX expense. So as I spoke about, most companies have to tap into a CapEx budget for these mini projects. What the Safe Harbor program allows you to do is set a monthly fee. We incorporate all the changes in that monthly fee, and then that stays constant over the term of the engagement. Okay, so that covers Safe Harbor. Let's talk a little bit about the SAP solutions for compliance in the region. So what we have here is a map. We show what SAP solutions address what requirements that are country specific. So I just want to dial back on this topic. In day-to-day conversations we have with customers and prospects, many times SAP companies are not even aware that SAP has solutions to address compliance for Latin America. What makes it even more challenging for, let's say, an American company is that their SAP account executive or leadership team may not be familiar with these solutions that SAP provides. So what I'm going to do here in the next few slides is cover these solutions at a high level. So when you are looking for these types of solutions to address compliance for the region, you know where to go to and what solutions to mention to your account exec and team from SAP. Okay, the GRC, the SAP GRC NFE solution from SAP. As many of you know, if you operate in Brazil, probably the key compliance initiative there is the Nota Fiscal Electronica solution. This basically requires for any goods movement that happens in the country, an electronic invoice that needs to be associated with that, and the electronic invoice needs to be sent to government authorities, validated and approved before those goods can be moved. So the SAP solution basically acts as a very intelligent messaging system. It sits within the GRC suite of solutions from SAP, Governance, Risk, and Compliance. And this solution also uses SAP PI or XI, which is the communication protocol that communicates with government authorities. The SAP NFE solution complies with all Nota Fiscal Electronica regulations. It automates the issuance and management of both the inbound and outbound functionalities of Nota Fiscal Electronica. It sends notification to vendors electronically, enabling B2B transactions. And all the triggering of back-end transactions into SAP are automated, so you have a complete audit record of that and real-time capabilities so that goods can be moved effectively and quickly and the supply chain is not interrupted. Okay, moving on to the eDocument framework. So let's talk a little bit about this solution from SAP. This solution was bought out by SAP Globalization. It helps companies comply with local e-invoicing regulations. This is not only Latin American specific, this is for really any country around the world that mandates e-invoicing regulations. SAP has developed a solution for that over the last 3 years. How the solution works at a high level, it complies with regulations requiring the creation of electronic documents in legally mandated XML formats. And orchestrates the communication with regulatory authorities with the use of specific technologies within SAP. One is called AIF, which stands for Application Interface Framework. It basically manages all the mapping for country-specific requirements for e-invoicing, and also uses HANA Cloud Integration, now called SAP Cloud Platform, or SCP. Basically, this component is the communication protocol with the tax authorities and government agencies. Lastly, this provides a monitoring console where you can handle exceptions, etc. So the countries that are covered, for eDocument Framework for Latin America currently are Peru, Chile, Colombia, and most recently Mexico. And we are expecting Argentina here in a few months. So Origin has a lot of experience with these types of projects and the country-specific nuances that I just mentioned. Okay. Lastly, we'll cover SAP TDF, or the Tax Declaration Framework solution that was brought out by SAP Brazil. So, if you've operated in Brazil for the last few years, you may have noticed that this was a lacking of an offering from an SAP perspective. Most of the fiscal reporting was done within the localization template for Brazil. I would say about 4 years ago, SAP made generally available the SAP TDF solution. This solution runs on HANA. You do not need to have an enterprise HANA license to use TDF. It comes with a sidecar usage license. But basically, if you imagine TDF as being a BW warehouse that is specific for Brazil. So it uses the high performance database HANA to centralize all the data that is needed for legal reporting for Brazil. It centralizes that in a central repository, and then basically enables the ability for very rapid integrated tax process reporting, calculation, and submission. So this really is also what we consider a paradigm shift, especially for a company that runs SAP, for how you generate fiscal reporting for the country. It provides the highest level of governance for legal compliance, and also allows you predictive analysis and optimization of tax. I think one of the bigger advantages here of the TDF solution is the month-end closing. Typically that is a very stressful time, especially in Brazil, because of the numerous amounts of obligations and the frequency of the submission of the reports. So this really allows you to plan ahead and proactively manage the submission of these reports. The one last I will mention here regarding these solutions, except for eDocument Framework, both of these solutions, TDF and NFE, can be delivered on-premise. NFE, the SAP NFE solution has an on-premise version, and very recently SAP has also released a cloud version, which Origin has expertise in deploying. Origin also has their own cloud capabilities. We partner with Telefonica, and we can deliver TDF as a service, or TDF on the cloud, as well as NFE on the cloud, using our Telefonica platform cloud capabilities on their open cloud. So both options are available there, and we'd be happy to speak to you about those. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Safe Harbor program and how it has helped one of our customers specifically. One of our customers, based out of Houston, Texas, is a large distributor to the oil field and industrial sector. We had been working with them for a number of years, assisting them with their various localization and compliance needs for Mexico and for Brazil. Unlike some companies, they actually managed all of the compliance support directly out of Houston with functional and technical COE members that were based there in Texas. The constant challenge that we heard from the customer was that they had to go back to their upper management and always explain why they needed additional budget, this mini project scenario that I covered earlier, which was creating a lot of stress and unforeseen expense that was hard for them to manage. So after about 2 years of us speaking to them about the Safe Harbor program from Origin, they came on board. They signed a 3-year contract, and as we spoke, we basically created a tailor-made program for them to help them manage the localization compliance for both Brazil and Mexico. So 1 monthly fee over a 3-year period. Speaking to the head of finance there that supports these local operations, she literally told me that this was a game changer as to how to manage support in the region. It made her life, she told us it saved her life. So we made her life much easier, and we were able to focus on all the legal mandates and the changes. They were able to focus on running their business, and it's been really a tremendous success story. So if any of you are interested in this program, we'd be happy to put you in touch with our customer there, and they can speak to the attributes and the benefits of the program. And I guess her only wish was that she would have done it sooner. So that concludes the case study portion. Here is just a list of some of our customers. You can see here that we really have cross-industry experience. We do a lot of work in the oil and gas space, a lot of work in the automotive space. We have a big presence in pharma and medical devices, but really this type of a program, no matter what industry you're working in, as long as you have Latin American operations, you're going to have needs and challenges of how you address compliance in the region. So we'd really love to speak to you about how we could help and introduce the Safe Harbor program to you. Lastly, I will conclude with this information. If you have any additional questions or comments about the Safe Harbor AMS offering, please feel free to contact us at this email address, info@origintech.com, and we'd be happy to provide that. We thank you very much for your time today, and look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.